Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Gateway TV, Gateway Gazette program. We broadcast live every Thursday from our London studio. This is News as Views, and we highlight the news from across the world. And this program we are doing from the last 10 or 11 years, and our focus is to highlight the special news of persecution and wherever is the injustice. And my guest tonight is a very renowned person, well-known person across the world, not in UK, but everywhere, wherever he goes. If you take his name, everyone knows. None other than Mr. Wilson Chaudhry. Mr. Wilson Chaudhry is a chairman of British Pakistani Christian Association, human rights activist. Mr. Chaudhry, we welcome you to our show.
Thank you, John.
Before I start my discussion with Mr. Wilson Chaudhry, I have a news which sent to me this evening, one of my friend Maurice Jones. Court actions being taken by Maurice Jones and Mushtaq Gill for non-implementation of 5% quota against the following. And these following organizations are Pakistan Rangers, Passport Office, Pakistan PWD, Pakistan Air Force. The reason is, if the court goes in our favor, that means in the favor of Pakistani Christians, there will be hundreds, possibly thousands of jobs for our youngster. We congratulate to Mr. Maurice Jones and the person who is with him, Mushtaq Gill from Pakistan. It's a very good and rightly initiative which both are going to take. As mentioned about Mr. Chaudhry, I know Wilson Chaudhry from the last 10 years when he started his first movement. And if I'm not wrong, Wilson can correct me anytime. He has started in 2009, rightly in July. Wilson, am I right or wrong?
You're a few months out. It was August.
It was August
2009.
Okay, August, because I remember when the incident took place of Gojra incident, and that time he started, and the demonstration he arranged the very first time, I was a part of that demonstration. And since then, wherever he invited, wherever he gave us a call, I tried my level best to give him a hand. And Mr. Chaudhry, I personally appreciate the work, the effort, the practical work you are doing for our community. Many times we forgot to appreciate you, but I publicly appreciate all the efforts you put so far. In 10 years, what you have achieved, people can only dream. You are doing for the deprived, persecuted people, not only in Pakistan, but across the world. Not only Christians, but Muslim and other faiths. Recently, in response to the terror attack in New Zealand on Friday, 15th March, the British Pakistani Christian Association held peace vigil at Ilford Town Hall to honor those who lost their lives. Wilson, we once again congratulations, and I personally give 100 upon 100 marks to you for the efforts you are putting, and thank you for joining us. I have lots of questions for you, and thank you. You are a very busy person, I understand, and you are also working on different cases in Pakistan, in Australia, in Canada, Sri Lanka, Turkey, name by name. But I will start case by case. Pakistani Christian mother of 3 who were kidnapped on gunpoint in Pakistan recently. Mrs. Naveed Iqbal, do you have any news about this case?
Yeah, well, the news we have for Naveed Iqbal's case, obviously, it's still going through process. The man who was accused of the attack has already been bailed. So this is going to be a long, enduring case, unfortunately. The family are seeking refuge and they've spoken to us, and we're in the process of obtaining funds to make sure we can get them into a safe house. So hopefully within the next few weeks we're able to get them into a place of safety whereby which they can challenge for justice voraciously without the fear of having somebody who is seeking to prevent justice by threatening them. Obviously, this is an awful case. I mean, a woman who was kidnapped at gunpoint, a mother of three who, before her husband and children, had to just give in and be taken into the auspices of this kidnapper. Whilst there, obviously, he undertook some savage brutality, including rape, and then forced her into Islamic marriage. Sadly, this man is not admitting his fault. And this woman faces the arduous and fearful process in court, which often in Pakistan will come to failure. But we will do all our best to make sure this woman gets justice for what's happened to her.
And do you have any idea, because in a journalism, because I need to get some update information, and this evening I thought that I will also share this news with you. One of my friends who is a journalist in Islamabad, he sent me this report this evening. According to the news, investigation in Naveed Iqbal's case, SP's SHO and investigation officer is suspended, and the main accuser, Khalid Sati, is charged in kidnap, rape, and forcibly change the religion. So he has been charged. So all three police officers were also suspended.
Yeah, I mean, they've been suspended, but again, this is quite a normal practice in Pakistan. This information that we've been told we're not allowed to reveal, so that shouldn't really be out in the public. You will see an update on our website in the next few hours. I've got an update, but we've not yet shared that. And again, I have to be very cautious because obviously it is an investigation in process, so there's details we cannot share too openly. But what I will say is that, yes, I mean, originally there was a charge, but the man received bail, and we expect again, as far as I'm aware, he has already got bail. So, the charges in Pakistan are very, very difficult to bring to fruition into a conviction, but we would ensure that we do our best to support this family, and we're in contact with them every day and hoping that justice will come. But this is Pakistan. It's a country where battles take longer and often, as I said, come to failure. So it will need people's prayer. People need to pray about this situation. It has gained some international attention, but international attention doesn't always bring justice. I mean, we know with Asia Bibi, the fight was a 10-year battle. And although she has finally been exonerated, arguably, has she received justice? She can never reclaim those years away from her children. She can never reclaim the lost sanity from having been kept in a four-wall chamber, only given access to daylight for 3 hours once every 2 months. There's much more that will come out, I'm sure, once she's left Pakistan, but until then, we just need to really continue to pray in battle for these impoverished and suffering Christians who are going to be targeted time after time because they are the most vulnerable minority in Pakistan.
And Wilson, what is the update of Asia Bibi? The order has been given, she has been released. Where is she? What she's doing? What are the updates?
Again, I'm very limited in what I can say. We speak to diplomats, we speak to officials from different countries, we speak to officials in this country, MPs and others, including lords. And all I can say, without putting myself in trouble, is that yes, she's still in Pakistan. She's still with her husband. This has been revealed by somebody other than myself. I've not brought this out open to the media, but it is out there. We have been waiting for her to be granted permission to leave the country, but there is a diplomacy that is ongoing, and that when that diplomacy comes to an end, she will be freed. I mean, in our belief, it should be days before she is able to go to her next country. Again, I've even been limited from saying which country she's going to go to, but I mean, there's enough evidence for people to follow the trail. But what I will say is that when they do go to that foreign nation that they go to, we have been invited to attend and meet with the family. And I have a personal contact with Ashik Masih, which I maintain almost daily. And we will be we will meet them, and we will obviously at that time decide what needs to be shared and what doesn't need to be shared. This family's gone through the mill, and you know, they're finally going to see some freedom for, you know, from the terrible persecution and intolerance they've had to face. And so now I think the world needs to perhaps step back a bit and allow them to have some convalescence before they seek the truth.
And tell me about, because you have recently arranged a vigil service for the New Zealander, for the victims of New Zealand, and what you have done so far, and what was the reactions of the attack there? What do you think? What is your views about this?
Well, in our local community, around the office, where the British Pakistani Christian Association is based, we have a large number of Muslims within the community. In fact, there's a mosque next door. So it's very easy for us to integrate and, you know, share our woes with them. And, you know, I felt just devastated when I heard the news, to think that innocent people could be shot dead for nothing other than worshipping their faith in a building that was sacred to them. For me is shocking, because it's not what we'd expect, and it's something we would hate as Christians. We hear about it too often, unfortunately. So to extend a hand of friendship, I spoke to religious leaders from all groups, managed to bring about senior Hindus from the local area of Ilford, local imams, several of them I should say, all who were in attendance at a memorial vigil we held outside Ilford Town Hall. In fact, in excess of 200 people overall were there throughout the period of our memorial. We had a bagpiper playing a lament and laid out some candles, 49 candles exactly to represent at the time the 49 that had been killed. What we did find is that the vigil itself was well publicised and actually made it into even Asian newspapers, and I think people were looking for something, some relief, some succor, something to kind of restore the peace, and it was just wonderful to be hand in hand with brothers and sisters from other faiths and be able to share, you know, that moment of solidarity and saying, yeah, and opposing intolerance and hatred. We even had the deputy, a cabinet leader basically from Ilford Town, from Redbridge Council, who attended and spoke about the need to put away the tools of hatred and to work together to restore peace. And it's been quite powerful, and I have to say that, you know, hopefully this is one way we as Christians are able to provide our own witness that, you know, when these incidents happen, we separate ourselves from them, we distance ourselves from the hatred and say, well, hold on, as Christians we're called to love, and we're here to help and support those who are in pain.
And Wilson, my next question is, because now in Pakistan, after we did a program, that time there was a different government, and now in Pakistan, this is a different government. That's the government of Imran Khan. First of all, tell me, because your struggle is, because the struggle was started after the Gojra incident, and thereafter, whatever the incident, they were all related to persecution, blasphemy laws, and all these rules. And so tell me about what are the changes you see in this new government, and do you think that the present government will take any actions?
We've seen some very positive changes in the situation. I mean, even if you simply look at the incident of Asia Bibi, when the Supreme Court appeal was announced, there was an attempt to murder her in prison. 2 felons who were incarcerated were apprehended and arrested so that she would be kept alive throughout that process. More to the point, after the judgment, there were hundreds of thousands of Muslims in city after city, rampaging, destroying council and government buildings. And whilst they were doing that, they were rioting by burning tyres and placing them in the middle of the streets, and just causing huge distress, bringing the country to a standstill. Yet, after intervention from the West, real pressure on the Pakistani government, what we saw was 3,500 of the most intolerant leaders in Pakistan were arrested and still remain detained. And this meant, when the final acquittal was announced 2 weeks after the actual verdict was made, we didn't have those mass riots. sorry, this is after the petition hearing of the leader of Tehreek-e-Labak, which was agreed as part of a capitulation by Imran Khan post the initial riots. After that hearing, we found that there were no more riots, only small skirmishes in minor areas, and people were arrested immediately. Finally, the country is starting to take the action they should have done many years ago. They've decided that these arrests could bring some stability to the country, and they want part of that. But why? I don't think it's because of Imran Khan's new Pakistan. Nothing of the sort. This is because America has stopped funding. This is because Britain is applying pressure, threatening to remove their foreign aid budget. This is because Europe is threatening to remove the GSP plus status that Pakistan has enjoyed. So that's tariff-free trade with the states within the European Union. All of this could be removed, and Pakistan is at its lowest economic ebb, almost bankrupt, relying on some Saudi funding, which may or may not come to fruition. So they are in this predicament and have to start listening to the West, fearful of what they will lose. And I think that's great for Pakistan, because overall it's for Imran Khan to make these correct decisions. Already we're seeing changes in law, in the way that they operate when it comes to minority issues. There's now a special room in the Lahore court where Christians can come and call for appeals against unfair blasphemy allegations and against charges laid against Christians for falsely alleged by Muslims who are out to settle personal vendettas. This is a great move forward, and hopefully it will bring about the change we all want to see in Pakistan.
And Wilson, one of the challenges, it's not blasphemy, it's not persecution, but I would say it is a persecution, especially forced conversion. And recently, 2 Hindu girls, and mostly Hindu girls are in forced marriages, especially in a Sindh area, but some Christian girls were also gone through the forced conversion, and then later marriages to a Muslim people. But my question is, what your organization is doing from here, and what are the pressures you are putting to the Pakistani government?
Complicated question, but I'll do my best to answer. First, let me correct something. There were more Christian girls who were kidnapped, raped and forced into Islamic marriage than Hindu girls. In 2014, the Movement of Solidarity and Peace, a Muslim NGO, estimated 700 Christian girls are kidnapped, raped and forced into Islamic marriage every year. That's a very significant figure. They also said 300 Hindu girls follow a similar fate. And so when you think about that drastic news, it really does put things into perspective. This is a very dangerous situation that exists for young girls in Pakistan. In fact, the average age is 13. And at the age of 13, my younger daughter, Hannah, who will be appearing on a show slightly later, actually spoke before 1,000 people at Westminster Cathedral. And when she spoke to the crowd and explained to them, hold on, the average age is 13, and I am 13, just to give you some perspective, you should have seen the shock on people's faces. This realization about how young and vulnerable these girls are. I mean, Hannah's now 15, and she's grown up a bit more, and she must be able to reflect and think how scared she was at 13. These girls must be terrified when this kidnap happens, and when they're brutalized. And often when they appear in court, they say that they agreed to these marriages, but they're 13 years old, or 12 or 11. They've been beaten, they've been raped. It's very easy to coerce them into saying whatever they want. Don't forget, as they go through these court processes, they aren't released into the arms of their family. They are still under the clutches or the grips of their rapists, the brutalizers. That's why so often these cases fail. And that's something the Pakistani government has to work on. I mean, we've managed to help only one woman escape these forced marriages legally. So she was the first and the only woman we know of who managed to get a divorce. And her name is Fuzia Bibi, who was actually returned back to her original rapist by her family after we helped her. And I can tell you that was debilitating for our group. So the second time when we helped her escape, she didn't go anywhere near that family. She was put into a safe house, like many other girls who we rescue. And we fought her case based on divorce rather than annulment of the marriage. And it was on that basis, before his infidelity, that we were able to help her escape the clutches of her rapist. It's not easy, and you have to choose whatever legal mechanism you can to protect these women. But yes, we've had a few successes in escapes. Over 25 girls now have escaped. This is by us purchasing them phones. We leave that phone with them. We plan with them when they can potentially escape. We have people on hand ready, and if she changes her mind suddenly, we go back to square one, waiting for the next call. But we'll be there on the date that she wants to be helped to escape with a van, ready to take her to a place of safety in one of our safe houses. These are expensive, and we do need help, and it's very rare for Pakistani Christians to actually contribute to that. But we've managed to maintain 3 safe houses for the last 4 to 5 years, and helped several women to escape. Now over 25. Not all of them go down the divorce route. It's very tricky to win a court case, and we have to make a judgment call. We found several, but we've managed to make sure those women won't return to the rapists by keeping them under the radar.
And Wilson, tell me about your recent visits. You have visited Australia twice. You went to Australia last year in October and also visited this year. And you also visited Canada, and a team has taken you, or you have taken the team, British media, to Thailand. Just tell us, our viewers, what had happened, what is the news about the Thailand, what you have done, your organization have done, and especially what sort of support you got it from Australian cabinet.
Okay, so
2 or 3 questions, but I would like you to give an answer for all 3 questions.
If I forget to answer any portion of your question, please do refer it back to me. Okay, I'll start with Thailand. Obviously, we took the BBC to Thailand in 2014 after we heard about the plight of several thousand Christians who were there. I mean, the figure at the time was 7,500. And we went out there, we met with them, and we then did some secret footage with Chris Rogers from the BBC. This actually highlighted the concern across the globe, and obviously action started to be taken. In fact, at the same time, we wrote an 869-page report on persecution in Pakistan. We submitted a copy of that to the UNHCR and many other government bodies across the world. Governments and, I should say, humanitarian bodies, including the UN. But the copy that we gave to the UNHCR in Thailand was taken by Senior Protection Officer Peter Trotter, who used it as a tool to actually obtain a £300,000 grant, a €300,000 grant from the European Union, which he then used to hire 8 new staff members, which fast-tracked applications for Pakistani Christian asylum seekers. Up until that point, it was taking 6 to 8 years for an application to be assessed. Since then, it's been every 2 years, which is obviously a lot quicker. The situation hasn't changed much. The UNHCR still has a low percentage of applicants from the Pakistani Christian community who pass. It's around 20%. It's only sped up, but obviously we continue to campaign and pursue this. One major success we've had in recent weeks is having helped a young woman and her mother gain asylum in Canada. I can't tell you too much at the moment because I'm being limited by an embargo until she's safely in Canada. But I can tell you it's a harassment case pertaining to a Pakistani member of a diplomat, I should say, at the Pakistani embassy. You'll be able to learn more on our website, but I can't really say too much in the media yet. An update will be given within the next few weeks. So that's Thailand for you. As I said, the situation hasn't changed much, but it has improved in regarding to the speed of applications being processed. With regards to Australia now, I've made several trips. Obviously, one of the reasons was we wanted every Western country, especially the English-speaking countries, to offer asylum to Asia Bibi. We were completely disconcerted that Britain had failed to provide an offer of asylum to Asia Bibi. In fact, it was me, myself, and I who actually reported it to the global media. And we made sure Britain was shamed because even today, I can't tell how embarrassed I am to be British and not to have had a nation to not have had the conviction to offer an innocent woman seeking asylum an opportunity to escape here. So we went there, we met with centre vets. We knew a lot of the centres before and the MPs, and while we were out there, we were also working with one of the victims that we've helped flee Pakistan from an online grooming case. Her name is Lara Hall, who's now one of our most loyal volunteers. Now, Lara Hall was a 30-year-old lawyer who went through a period of depression, suffers from OCD and various other mental conditions, and was groomed by a Pakistani man online. When she got to Pakistan, she was kidnapped, forced in the room, raped daily, starved, beaten, tortured. She has recordings of most of this. She went there for romance and ended up in one of the most sordid rape stories you can think of. When she reached out to us, my daughter was the first to read her Facebook message and helped her call the emergency number of the local police there by just seeking on the internet. She found it was 15, informed me about it, and we managed to help Lara with some overstay fines and you know, just channeling her into the right mechanisms for her to escape out of Pakistan. She was failed greatly by the Australian government, who offered no assistance and no help, and not even a loan for a flight ticket back, despite the nature of the attack on her. They have since apologised, since we met with them in Australia only at the beginning of this year. But up until that point, they offered no assistance. And if it wasn't for BPCA and many other, in fact, senior placed Muslims in Pakistan, this woman would still be in the clutches of her rapist. And you know, she's become one of our most loyal and sound volunteers, I should say. Do look up Lara Hall's story. It's quite disturbing. But I think it gives us a bit of a indication of the mindset of the Pakistani Muslim men, unfortunately. When you think about grooming gangs in England, it's atrocious. But you know, it's often ignored that the fact is that over 95% of these perpetrators are men of Pakistani origin. None of them are Christian or Hindu. Every one of them has been Muslim, except for the 5% who are probably just cajoled by by these Pakistani Muslim friends. This is a major concern, and I think it stems to interpretations of the Quran. It's something the Muslim community of Britain does need to work on, and the Muslim community of Pakistan, because it does, for all intents and purposes, the more you inspect the issue, the more you realise that Pakistan seems to be central to this grooming sensation that has rocked Western culture.
And are you still following the case of Sadaf Amer, who was 13 years old in Cholistan, Bahawalpur? What is the update about this case?
I haven't got an update yet from Merish, but she's prepared one. It should be up on our blog as well. We are catching up with a lot of work. But yes, Sadaf, we met with her. Merish travelled to Cholistan 2 weeks ago now, so we're very aware of her case. Again, there's details we don't share immediately, not in the same fashion that we used to beforehand, not until things develop and making sure that Sadaf is going to be safe. But the family is very aware of BPCA, and we're very much going to be part of the process of helping her to flee to escape the clutches of this forced marriage rapist. Again, you know, if worse comes to worse, simply she goes into hiding. You know, we don't always take these into court, because often the courts can side against the Christian because of this intolerance and this hatred for the minority from within. Sadaf's case is one of many, and she's the exact I'm trying to think of the word paradigm of these victims. She's 13 years old. She's young. She's attractive. She's Christian. She's vulnerable. And hopefully, you know, highlighting these cases will, if nothing, slowly change the laws so that they become more favourable, and victims like her can receive justice without having to hire their own solicitors. I mean, in any other country, this would become a Crown versus rapist concern. I don't know why Pakistan remains a nation where, the only nation I know of, where you have to enact a legal process by hiring a lawyer because the police simply aren't willing to make the correct FIR.
Viewers, we are going for a break, and when we will come back after the break, in program, we should have a new young face following her father's footstep. Hana Chaudhry will join us. She was in my program, if I'm not wrong, 1 or 2 years back she came. But, okay, 3 times she came.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. But that was in a different position. But by the grace of God, now she is the only and the first person She is a Essex Youth Counsellor and Redbridge Youth Counsellor. She will join me in the program after the break. Thank you for watching. Welcome back, viewers. With me is Mr. Wilson Chaudhry. Mr. Wilson Chaudhry is a chairman, British Pakistani Christian Association, renowned human rights activist, known everywhere. And he is a lucky father. There are very few parents who are luckiest like Mr. Wilson Chaudhry, and the children who followed their footstep. And with me, my next guest is Hannah Chaudhry. I know Hannah when she was little girl, like 5 years. She was in the mission of his father. Since then, Hannah, we welcome you to our show.
Thank you.
Could you please tell our viewers how was your journey when you were 5 years, now you are 15 years, and now you become our youngest and the first Essex Youth Counsellor and Redbridge Youth Counsellor. How was your journey?
Okay. Since I was younger, I've always been inspired by my dad, and through the work he does, I've always gone to his protests when he talks about the persecuted Christians and to save them. And I've also volunteered for the charity BPCA, British Pakistani Christian Association, and I've grown with experience. And it's really good to know that as I'm a Redbridge Youth Councillor and Essex Youth Councillor, that I can try and make a difference in my communities. As it says in John 13 verse 34, it says, as I love one another as I have loved you. And it shows that we should use our unconditional love that Jesus gave us to love one another and our community and try and help and do our best to make it a better and safer place for everyone.
And could you please tell our viewers, recently you got the award, British Citizen Youth Award. What was that?
I got my British Citizen Youth Awards for many things. So when I was younger, when I was 7 years old, I went to the Redbridge library and I saw a mammoth tooth they had on display, and I found out that mammoths used to roam around in Ilford, and I saw that there was a skull in the Natural History Museum, and my dad went to take me to the Natural History Museum, and we saw it, and I was like, I want to bring a piece of it back to Ilford because that's my heritage. So for a long time we campaigned, and a man called Dr. Adrian Lister gave us a £50,000 replica to take back to Redbridge, and now it's in the Redbridge Museum, and it was on display for 2 years, and only last year my dad and I had our names on the plaque that was installed. Yeah.
And how excited you are after becoming a councillor for two councillor, I would say, not a one, two councillor, yeah? Essex councillor and Redbridge councillor. Are you excited, and do you have more work to do? What do you feel? Because you were a worker with British Pakistani Christian Association. Now you got additional responsibility. How do you feel about this?
I'm really excited about the new opportunities that I get, because each council teaches me different aspects which I can use in my further work for the BPCA, and I'm just really excited to help my community and make it a safer and better place for myself, but also for the people around me.
We will come back to you. Now we will go back to your dad, because your dad has polished you. He brought you here, and I'm very glad that your journey, since you were a child, as I told my viewers, I knew Hannah when she was only 5 years. Wilson, what was the idea? Why would you like to bring Hannah, and what about your other children? Do you also feel that they will also be a part of your team, or they will help you in your movement?
Again, it's very hard to tell. I mean, every child is different. I mean, Hannah's always had her own passions. She spoke about the mammoth that she helped the mammoth skull she helped bring back to Ilford. That was her idea, but she asked me to assist. So it's quite the opposite. She was teaching me something about the local heritage and how valuable it was. So it's hard to say who teaches who, but I think we both, we both bounce off each other with ideas. I mean, even when when she spoke before 1,000 people at Westminster Cathedral, I didn't ask her to do that. She was actually entering an award for her local school, which was Yoni Jesna, which required her to do 30 hours volunteering. And she said, Dad, can I come and speak at that event? I'd like to be able to share details about the girls, because she's heard about these young 13-year-olds, and she thought, hold on, they're the same age as me, and it was her heart, her passion that led her to do it. But of course, as a father, I'm there to facilitate, because I'm already working in that field. So she will have gained something from that. I mean, I think she didn't tell you the whole details, but there were, her British Citizenship Youth Award was for many different things. For instance, there was one day we used to collect her from her car park. We're too scared to let her go journey from school to home. She's only started doing that this year, because we're fearful of knife crime and whatever. She's a young girl, vulnerable in a place which has a history of knife crime. In fact, there was 2 incidents at her school. Well, not at her school, but involving children from her school. But she noticed there were some canisters on the road, and she asked me about them. and we realised there was some drug abuse, and so she launched a campaign. I mean, I supported her through this, and she managed to change the way her school thought about drugs, and people came in and taught people about the bad nature of drug use, and from that also she was able to help and design a portal for crime, which is actually on our website. We worked together on that, and I'm really hoping that you know, she continues to have these ideas that I can help in the background and support. I mean, this is a record. There's never been a teenager, Pakistani Christian or not, who has ever stood in 2 youth councils at the same time. I mean, Hannah doesn't particularly have a desire for politics.
And can I say congratulations to you as a father, and congratulations to all of us. And once again, congratulations to you. And one more thing, the challenge we have right now across the country, especially the knife crime. I was just going through the news, and I was very surprised that a young girl like your age is arranging a seminar or a program or some sort of for the children. I believe you're organizing a program on the 6th April, and you recently spoke at Redbridge Peace Pool. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And urged the teenager in the UK to sign your petitions calling for stronger knife crime reforms. How was the response? Did you get a response? And the people signed the petition which you have sent?
Well, I've been posting the website for our petition to all the teenagers that I know of, and I've been telling them to pass it on and to share the message with other teenagers. But I hope from today that more teenagers and more people will start getting involved, and hopefully we'll have a really good turnout for our event on the 6th of April.
And Hannah, could you please also tell our viewers, it may be possible that the listener, the viewers, will come to the program that you are arranging on the 6th. Could you please update what about this program?
Okay, so on the 6th of April, we are having a meeting on the knife crime, and we really want all the teenagers and everyone to get involved to help us to create a safer and stronger community together, and hopefully to prevent knife crime as much as possible. And we really want to gather our strength and support from everyone to make sure that this will happen.
And did you get a support from the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan? Because I believe you also sent a letter or spoke to him or whatever it is. Did you get any response from the Mayor?
Well, I haven't got a response yet, but we've sent out a letter. Hopefully we'll get a response soon. But until we wait, we really want to take action on our own and start trying to do things so we can have a safer community for teenagers and young people who are out there.
And Wilson, would you like to add something here?
Again, you know, the police are very supportive of this meeting. You know, we've got leaders from so many different knife crime groups, including David Anglin, a youth offender specialist, who knows Hannah very well from having worked with her on lots of different projects during the course of the year. And we're also going to have a young 20-year-old who's actually reformed his life. In fact, there'll be 2 young 20-year-olds that reformed their life, one from a Christian charity called E-Gangs, and one from this youth offender specialist, David Anglin. Now, when they speak about it, we're hoping that will impact on young teenagers who might be thinking about doing the wrong thing and falling into this gang crime or violent crime, or just who want to settle a personal vendetta. You know, the use of a knife, it can't just be put down to gang knife. I mean, personally, I think there's a stronger connection between knife crime and poverty and the lack of policing. And I think we're looking for practical solutions, and I think Hannah herself has obviously written about that and is speaking to teenagers about it. I mean, the petition is gaining in number. If you look at the number of signatories, I think around there was around 50 now, and of that, there's about 42 of them who are writing their names as Master or Miss, which would suggest that you know, 42 teenagers are supporting the petition. It's rare for teenagers to sign petitions. That's a really, really good thing. Obviously, the more we can cascade this, the more support we get, the more we can show that there is a teen voice, then we're able to speak about these in the higher echelons. I mean, Hannah is doing her best, but again, it takes every single person in this world to make a difference. I remember the words of Mahatma Gandhi. I know he's not a Christian, and maybe that's uncomfortable for some people, but he said some very simple words, and we're from Asian dissent. I think it's valid to say them here. And we've written those up across Redbridge Peace Monument. The words are, "Be the change you wish to see in this world." Now, Hannah actually inserted mosaics into Redbridge Peace Monument. And many of you may be thinking, what is Redbridge Peace Monument? Well, it's a monument that my group installed, BPCA, Easterfield Betterment Partnerships, two groups that I'm chairman of. We installed this monument to remember the 3 knife victims in Redbridge at the time. Charlotte Polis, a black girl of 15 years old, stabbed to death by an ice pick in her neck for stepping on somebody's feet at a party. The person who stabbed her neck was a gatecrasher, whereas Charlotte Polis was invited to the party. Kashif Mahmood, killed at 15 because Rehan Ahmed was envious that his former girlfriend was now dating Kashif Mahmood, 2 very innocent victims here. And then you have Jack Large, who was probably involved in gang issues, and he was stabbed to death by a black gang member, if that makes sense. And so there's 3 very different issues, but it shows you just how personal vendettas can be the main cause. Simple misunderstandings as well as poverty and gang. There is no one issue. So if we're going to find, there's no panacea, there's no one cure that is going to stop knife crime. But the more we talk about it, the more we find solutions as a community, the stronger we can fight this social malaise that is plaguing our existence in contemporary times.
Wilson, I'm coming back to my some points which are left. I think it's an opportunity for me to ask you some other questions. Persecution is not only in Pakistan or India or here or there, but the persecution is also in Nigeria. Nigeria is the country where mostly Christians are killed by the rebels recently, but unfortunately, I would say, including us, the media is very biased. What about the news? We can see the news across the world about the incident of New Zealand. There is not a single day, you just open the newspaper, you will find the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda has done this, Jacinda has done this. Whatever she can do, she is doing for the people. And that's a less than 1% population, the Muslim people. And I think she is doing a great job. And according to, as you mentioned earlier, and I 100% believe, and the Christianity is based that you have to help each other, love each other, and whatever she is doing, excellent. What about the Christians are being persecuted in Nigeria? Is your organization ever invited there to help them? Or what is your plan to do some help for them?
Nigeria is a country I've always had a passion for. In fact, before I started the BPCA, I always thought the first charity I would initiate would be one that served Nigerian Christians. They are the first community I heard of, the first community of Christians who were persecuted. From accounts that I've heard from friends of mine who are from Nigeria, from the north, the state of play in the north is equal to, if not worse than Pakistan. Yet for many years, Nigeria's persecution has been ignored. In fact, Open Doors World Watch has now placed them at 11th, but I believe that figure, they should be way higher up on the list of persecuted Christians. In fact, you know, if you go back 2-3 years ago, Nigeria was hardly mentioned by Open Doors. Now, I'm planning to travel to Nigeria because, as I said, it's a calling I believe I've ignored for too long, and you know, God's testing my heart, and you know, I'm just so I'm so eager now to ensure that I do, you know, start to highlight, you know, as much as I have the Pakistani Christian issue, the Nigerian issue. I really do feel for the brothers and sisters. They've been slain in the streets. Their girls are being kidnapped, raped, forced into Islamic marriage. Numbers would match those in Pakistan for the Christian community. You know, their buildings, their properties stolen, personal vendettas are laid against them. They can be hacked to death. They can have blasphemy allegations laid against them. It's very, very similar to Pakistan. It's atrocious. And I just cannot stand by and keep watching as the world ignores their plight. So, you know, as a group, we've agreed that, you know, we are going to go out and go out to Nigeria, and I'm hoping to go with an Indian pastor from Wolverhampton. You know, we've talked about it, and we haven't yet cemented the final details, but hopefully we'll travel out there soon with a video camera and we will really bring it home.
And Wilson, tell me, because you meet on a daily basis to some MPs here and lords and different people who are in politics, those who have an influence to do something, what is their reaction about the Christian persecution in Nigeria? That's a very important, because we always talk about the persecution in Pakistan or some other countries, but that's very important because the main media do not highlight for some reason, I don't know.
Again, obviously, it all depends on which politicians you speak to. If you speak to Lord Alton, he's an outspoken Christian advocate. I mean, he will speak about Christian persecution wherever it be, and you know, he's wonderful, and he's done great things not only for Pakistani Christians but for persecuted Christians across the globe. If anything, we really do need to hail the wonderful sacrifice this man makes for all of us. And then there's others who really simply don't care. Obviously, it all depends. I mean, you can go to the very liberal left, and do they really care? Do they actually believe the stories? Some of them believe it's all contrived. They're just not willing to hear the truth. But that's why it's essential that a group who is really willing to represent this and get this out into the media reveals the dimensions of hatred that these people face on a daily basis. And you know, as an individual, I am prepared to do that, much the same way I've done that for Pakistani Christians, and much the same way as I started doing that for the Indian Christians and raised the level of their awareness of their persecution to where it is now, if that makes sense. So, you know, we've just decided as a group that there's a need, and we're willing to help. You may even see a name change to the group at some point in time. British Pakistani Christian Association may soon become British Persecuted Christian Association, as we feel that the remit of our work expands, and there's a need for us to be involved with the tragedies faced by Christians in other nations. You know, we are called to help all those who suffer. I mean, the verse that seems most pertinent to me would be Matthew 25 verse 40. What you have done for the least of these, you've done for me. I mean, God's made it very, very clear. I mean, my daughter quoted a verse, John 13:33. And I think it's really important that we remember that, you know, we have to love these innocent Christians unconditionally in the same way that God loves us. Much the same as we have to love all people. But, you know, at the moment, there is this specific need for Nigerian Christians. And if we can all ignore it, we can all just, you know, do a quick prayer and forget all about it. But that doesn't mean that the persecution goes, that the pain goes. That those mothers who've lost children will suddenly heal from the wounds. That will live with them forever. Those fathers who've seen their daughters raped and then returned after they've been misused, or never get to see their daughters again. These are painful incidents. And if we don't do anything about it, you know, there's one day when we do have to face our God. And he will ask us, what did you do for the least of these? I hope, you know, all of us can one day contribute to an answer that's positive.
And Hannah, I'm coming back to you. Since as a young girl, you have seen the work of your father, and you have seen also the persecutions across the world. As a young child, you have given the reference from the Bible. What do you see? What message would you like to give from our channel to our viewers?
Well, I'd just like to say, because I work for the BPCA and I've witnessed a lot of things, and I've heard and read stories that are really horrible, and what's going on around the world is really horrible. I'd just like to say that if you could support our charity, that'd be really good, and that if you could pray for all these Christians, because it's really horrible what's happening around the world, and we should try our best to stop it as much as we can.
Thank you very much. Wilson, last but not the least, I also seen your visit to Turkey. Turkey is a country where normally not many Pakistanis are there. But you went there to help somebody. I just want to know what was the case and what is the outcome there?
Well, I've visited Turkey twice. I mean, we've gone out. There are a few asylum seekers. I mean, you'd be surprised how many Pakistani Christians use Turkey as a conduit to enter into places such as Europe, as Greece. It's one of the stopping off points. So it's not unusual. And there are a number of Pakistani Christians. They're hard to find, but they're there. And as I said, if they're there, they're not always there for very long. So we did a trip about 2 years ago to assess the extent of help and need we have to give in Turkey. And we met a few families, but we haven't got a base, because obviously it is a very transient Pakistani Christian community that will ever reside there. But obviously on the recent trip, we were hoping for really good news. We had taken Vikram Masi, a man who'd been beaten by Muslims who desired his property. I mean, he'd been beaten so badly, A, for refusing to convert to Islam, and obviously just through a petty jealousy, that he lost the sight from one eye. But it was hope that he could be restored. And sadly, however, because of the Pakistani court case that ensued and the fact that he was limited from leaving the country, so refused exit, he had to stay back about 3 to 4 months, and that delay by the Turkish authorities, and the Turkish authorities who felt that he may have been seeking asylum in Turkey, meant that a 3-month delay was too much for the operation to take place. So, and when we got there, doctors simply said that it was too late for his operation to have any real effect, and they were trying to offered to alter the operation to remove the affected eye and place a glass eye in. But Vikram's been very brave, and he's choosing to trust and pray for healing. A pastor has told him that his eye will heal, and he's calling for people to pray. And we continue to ask everybody to pray for Vikram, so that whatever his future is, with eye or without eye, that God ensures that his future is one that is solid and one in which he continues to live a fulfilling life.
Viewers, Wilson Chaudhry, I have so many questions to ask him, and whatever was possible for me to ask, I was able to ask important questions and got the update from Wilson Chaudhry. This is not a commercial program. This is not a commercial program, and you can see our bank's details. We need your financial support. We need your moral support. I would like to request to the people of London. We have a large community live here in London. As Wilson said, we need to pray for them. We also need to support this channel. If we do not have this channel, I won't be able to produce a program from here. So thank you for watching, and those who are financially supporting us, I would also request to the people of London, to the people of UK, and wherever this program is being watched right now, we need your support. We are thankful to Dr. Peter J. David, who took the pain, started this television, and since then, this program is continued. There was not a single day that it was closed. So feel free. This is not my channel. This is not Dr. Peters or Dr. Nchili or Kamar or Wilson. This is our channel. I invited many times to our Muslim friends, our Hindu friends, and anybody or anyone who's persecuted and want to share the news. This is open for them. We have only 1 minute left, and I would like our young daughter, Hannah, to please pray. I would like you to pray. Pray for the victims. Yeah?
Okay. Okay. Dear Lord, thank you for everything that you've given for us today. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this interview, that we can share your love and support, and we can grab support of the people. Lord, I pray that you help those persecuted in other countries, in Pakistan, Nigeria, India, Sri Lanka, anywhere in the world. Lord, I pray that you give them strength and the wisdom to hold on to your name and to live another day in your love, Lord. I pray that you protect them and you keep them safe. Lord, I pray that you heal them from any pain, and you just ease their pain for them, and you really help them in their times of trouble, Lord. I pray that you help them, Lord, and restore faith in them. And I pray that we'll hang on to your word every day. Lord, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.